Hi, I'm Dr. Neil Barnard. Let's talk about food and hot flashes. What are hot flashes, first of all? Well, when you're around 50 years of age, or give or take a bit, the ovaries stop releasing eggs. And when that happens, estradiol and progesterone decrease. These are hormones that are in your blood, and they go way down. And in response, your body produces something more called FSH that increases. This will not be on the test. These are the things, though, that are happening in your body. And as a result, you get hot flashes. But you get other things, too. You might have vaginal changes as well. And you might also have sort of some mood changes. And you really will feel sometimes like you're just not yourself. You wonder, how long is this going to go on? Well, let's talk about what hot flashes are and what you can do about them. Okay, first of all, hot flashes are a phenomenon that it's really called vasodilation. What that means is that the blood vessels that are in your skin are dilating, they're widening up so that the temperature that's deep in your core, 98.6, that kind of thing, is now the kind of temperature you're feeling in your skin. And it's sort of like taking a radiator and just opening it up so that you get all that hot water going through. You're hot. And it won't last too long, except that once it stops, then you're going to have chills, and it can happen over and over again. It can happen in the middle of the night, and it can mean that sleep is pretty elusive. So it can really make you pretty miserable. Okay. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. Researchers have looked around the world, and we found some interesting clues. A researcher named Margaret Locke, who was at McGill University in Canada, went to Japan. And she interviewed well over 1,000 women. And what she found is that women really were not reporting hot flashes very much. And at first, researchers thought, well, maybe they're just a little bit reticent to talk about something personal like that. But that really didn't seem to be the case. The Japanese women would say, well, I have some symptoms. I got some backaches and my shoulders kind of hurt or whatever. But hot flashes were reported pretty rarely until the Japanese diet started to westernize. You know what I'm talking about. Fast food chains came in, and instead of it being a rice-based diet, now it's chicken, burgers, and cheese, and ice cream, and things that really weren't part of the traditional diet to any great extent. And as the diet changed, all kinds of other things changed. Breast cancer became more common. Prostate cancer in men, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, even depression was more common, and so were hot flashes. But it wasn't just Japan. Researchers looked in China and in rural Mexico, and they found much the same thing. And so that led to a theory. And the theory is, if a part of the world is following a mostly plant-based diet, like rice in Japan or beans in rural Mexico, and suddenly a more Western industrialized type of diet comes in, meat, cheese, that kind of stuff, then somehow some hormonal changes are occurring that can change the body in many ways, one of which is an increased risk of hot flashes. Now, there's more to it. Researchers have looked at soybeans, and they have compared the effects of soy with other foods to see what the effects are on hot flashes. And 2008 Australian study showed that when women were asked to consume soy flour, they had a significant reduction in their hot flashes. Wheat flour, not quite so good. Then recently, researchers published in one of the journals of the American Medical Association the results of many different studies looking at soy extracts of various kinds. And I don't know if you've ever looked at one of these. It's called a forest plot. And it gets that name from those funny little dots on the right-hand side here that if you kind of use your imagination, it looks a little bit like a forest of trees. That center line there, if a dot, every dot here is a study. And if the dot is right on the center line, that means that the soy didn't do any good. If it's to the left of that line, though, that means that soy was reducing the hot flashes. And you see it with dietary soy isoflavones or supplements and extracts of isoflavones. Isoflavones are constituents of soy products that can be used, they can be measured just in the diet. In soybeans or soy milk or tofu, or they can be used as extracts, and they're sometimes sold at health food stores in capsules and that kind of thing. And you see, most of those dots are to the left of that center line, and what that means is that the soy is doing something. For most people, it's reducing their hot flashes. This is Anne. Anne told me about her hot flashes, and she said, they can be pretty miserable for anybody. But if you're wearing a gun belt and a bulletproof vest, and was a cop in Portland, hot flashes can make you really, really, really miserable. And she couldn't sleep very well at night, so she began a soy protein drink, and she had it every morning, and her hot flashes went way down. And then as a test, she stopped it, and the symptoms came back. So she was convinced, she brought it back in, and she stuck with it. So if you would like to try a diet to see if it can change your hot flashes, there are 3 steps that I'd encourage you to follow. And really follow these exactly. Number 1, avoid all animal products. You might be doing this already, because so many people are, but if you're not, throw out the meat, the dairy, and the eggs, and do this for a good 8, 12 weeks, something like that, to see what it'll do for you. No animal products at all. I'm going to make you a vegan. Second, keep oils really low. Now, for a lot of people, this is a challenge, but we're using all kinds of oils in foods and oily foods like guacamole or peanut butter. For now, during this experiment, set those aside. We're going to go really low fat. Why? Well, it does help with body weight, and body weight affects hormones. But also, researchers have found that oils themselves, fats of any kind, can affect hormones too. Okay, number 3, we're going to have soybeans. A half a cup of cooked soybeans every day. All right, so let's jump in. Let's look at the specifics of it. What we're going to use is the power plate: fruits, grains, vegetables, legumes. Legumes are beans, peas, lentils. So these are kind of the ingredients that make up our meal. And we're also going to have a supplement. You need vitamin B12. You need it for healthy nerves. You need it for healthy blood. You don't need much. You need about 2.4 micrograms a day, but just go to the health food store or any drugstore, any grocery store. They've all got vitamin B12. Pick it up. You need it. Frankly, everybody needs it. But on a vegan diet, it can be the one nutrient that you're going to miss. So vegan diet plus vitamin B12. So how do I start this vegan diet, and how do I make it appealing? I'm going to show you a 2-step method that we use at the Barnard Medical Center and at the Physicians Committee in our research studies, and I've never seen anyone unable to do this. Really easy. Step 1, check out the possibilities. Take a week, 7 days, and during this 7-day period, just write down on a piece of paper vegan foods that you might like. What I mean is foods that have no animal products in them that you might like. Take a piece of paper, write breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack on the paper, and take 7 days and fill it in with foods that grab you. Okay, so what would that be? Oatmeal for breakfast, blueberry pancakes, bran flakes with almond milk instead of cow's milk. See what you find. Then go on to lunch. Have pizza without the cheese. Have chili that's a bean chili, not the meat chili. Try different things. If you don't like them, don't write them down. If you like them, write them down. And you'll discover that restaurants have you covered too. Every Italian restaurant is delighted to make you a plate of spaghetti or angel hair pasta with a marinara sauce or arrabbiata sauce, salads, pasta e fagioli. Great. Every Latin American restaurant, they've got beans, rice, veggie fajitas, bean burritos. Super. Chinese cuisine, you bet. Rice, vegetables, tofu dishes, lots and lots and lots of things. Japanese cuisine. Extra points for Japanese because not only are there lots of vegan items, but they really don't use much oil, whereas the other restaurateurs are unfortunately a little bit enthusiastic about their oil. At a Japanese restaurant, edamame, you can have sushi as long as it's the vegan sushi. Cucumber roll, asparagus roll. Okay, great. Sweet potato roll, lots of great choices. Miso soup, seaweed salads, they're super. Now, even at fast food chains, Subway, Taco Bell, maybe it's not the pinnacle of culinary art, but they've got vegan choices for you too. So if you like them, write them down. After 7 days of writing down options, you've got a pretty darn good list. Now, step 2, now that you've got your list, is to eat those foods. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to do a vegan test drive. And during this period of time, what you're going to discover is that foods will kind of work their magic with you. If you need to lose a little bit of weight, you'll find yourself losing some weight. You'll feel better and better and better. Okay, let's have a look at some familiar foods. And I want to show you how you might adapt some things really, really easily. Let's say I have pizza. Can you make pizza vegan? Of course you can, absolutely. With pizza, you can have the tomato sauce, throw on some spinach, throw on some onions, some peppers, mushrooms, olives, and a little extra tomato sauce instead of the cheese. Great. Spaghetti, we already talked about that. Instead of the meat sauce, have the tomato sauce. Have a little extra garlic if you like. You'll love it. Okay, sushi, you bet. We talked about lots of choices. Live it up. Okay, so by now I think you figured it out. Vegan, not too tough. We want to keep the oils really low. And step 3, we're going to prepare some soybeans. It's really easy if you've got a pressure cooker like an Instant Pot, but you can also cook them on the stove. Let me show you how with both ways. Use mature soybeans. This is not edamame. Edamame is the more juvenile ones. These are just regular soybeans. You can buy them online. You can buy them at health food stores or co-ops. You can get non-GMO. You can get organic soybeans. You'll see. Pressure cook them for about 40 minutes and then split them up into individual packets so that you can have a half a cup every day. If you want to do it on the stovetop, super easy to do. Soak them overnight. If you like, add about a teaspoon of salt to the soaking water. That tends to keep them a little softer. And then boil them for about 60 to 90 minutes. Rinse it first, rinse off that soaking water. Don't use that. Put fresh water in there, then boil them for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and you've got some great soybeans. And what are you going to do? You can have them plain. You can have them with dressing. You can have them on a salad. They're kind of like pine nuts. They have a nice sort of crunchy texture. It's really, really cool to have. But keep it super simple. If you want to add some salt or cloves or other seasonings, go ahead, knock yourself out, have fun with it. And one thing that sometimes people like to do is they like to roast them. Super easy. Cook them first in the ways that we described. Cook them first. Once they're cooked, put them out on a cookie sheet and line it with parchment paper. And don't pack them in too much. You don't want them all cooking into each other. Sprinkle maybe a half a cup of your favorite seasoning, like some tamari or fajita seasoning, something like that if you like. And then throw it in the oven, bake it for about 350 degrees for 30 to maybe 60 minutes. Experiment and you'll see what you like the best. But then once again, put them in individual little packets and you got a great snack. Now, before we go, a lot of people are worried about soy. So let's just talk about that briefly. Soy products are all over the internet for people saying, gee, are they safe? Are they not safe? What do I make about soy? Here's what they're talking about. Back in 1931, researchers discovered isoflavones. Those are those soy constituents we were talking about. Genistein is the most common one. And if you look at its chemical structure, it does look a little bit like estradiol. That's an estrogen in your body. And so people started to worry that they could cause cancer. Could soy cause cancer? Researchers had a look. And in 2004, they published a meta-analysis of 8 studies in Asians and Asian Americans. And the reason they chose these populations is that some of them consume a phenomenal amount of soy and some consume almost none. And that gives you a great comparison. What did they find? They found that people consuming the most soy had a 29% reduced risk of breast cancer. Soy was reducing the likelihood that breast cancer would occur. And then other researchers have looked at what about women who had cancer in the past? She was treated for breast cancer, and now she's hoping that the cancer will never come back. And it turns out that very similar to the prevention studies, the studies in women who had cancer showed that those women having the most soy had the least likelihood of ever dying of their cancer. Does that surprise you? What it means is if you had cancer in the past and you're avoiding soy, it looks like that's maybe not a good way to go. The people who avoid soy had the highest risk of dying of their cancer. The women who consumed the most soy did the best. And that was true whether they had estrogen receptor negative or estrogen receptor positive cancers. So what are we looking at? Plant-based diet, minimize the oils, add soy products, half a cup of mature soybeans, cooked soybeans every single day. Now, if you're having soy milk or tofu or other soy products in the day, fair enough, you can continue to have those, but have this half a cup of whole soybeans in addition to that. I've got an app that'll help you. It's the 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. It's free. It's on your iPhone. It's on your Android. It's in English. It's in Spanish. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. Download it for free. It's got menus, recipes, cooking videos, all kinds of cool stuff. And everything that we talked about today is in my book, Your Body in Balance. Have a look at it. We talk about all kinds of hormonal issues, not just menopause, but thyroid issues, diabetes, menstrual cramps, hormone-related cancers. The foods that are in the recipes were all done by Lindsay S. Nixon, and they all fit the guidelines. So have a look there if you'd like some additional information. All right, I hope you found this information helpful. Thanks.